the Aspiration and Engagement Bodhicitta Recitations, which is on the Recitations book, page 1 and 2. All mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience, may they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in a state of the most perfect and precious Buddhahood. All mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience, may they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in a state of the most perfect and precious Buddhahood. All mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience, may they experience happiness and be separated from suffering. I will quickly establish them in the state of the most perfect and precious Buddha. Now, engagement bodhicitta. Thus, until I achieve enlightenment, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Now let's turn to this Milarepa Guru Yoga text, page 8. Which has the refuge and the bodhicitta. So this will be the equivalent for those of you who are more familiar with our usual recitation book way of doing the prayers. This will be the equivalent of the refuge formula that we recite in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. And also the 4 immeasurable minds. So instead of using those, which are the common ones, we use the one that is more specific for the Milarepa meditation. Take your time. You're already here. No rush.
Jim's coming.
No rush. Just relax. So page 8. So here, what is going on here is taking refuge in Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, and also taking refuge in the 3 roots. And last week, right, I spent a little bit of time talking about, or just reminding you guys, because you already know this, that the 3 refuges, or the excellent 3, which is what is called here, and the 3 roots aren't 6 different things. And the excellent 3 and the 3 roots are outer and inner aspects of refuge. And what do we mean by inner? Here, in this context, inner simply means more intimate, more directly, right? More concretely. In some ways, more concretely. In other ways, that sounds like the top of a sugar container. Pardon me.
That move.
So when you say inner, it means much more, in our direct experience. And so much more in direct experience as Vajrayana practitioners, when we say Buddha, who is Buddha? Guru is Buddha. When we say Dharma, who is Dharma, right? Dharma is the meditation that you engage in this case, idam, right? And then when we say Sangha, what are we talking about? We're talking about conditions and circumstances that manifest in the mythic way, the Dakas, the Dakinis, and the Dharmapalas. Mythic here doesn't mean less real. It means a different level of reality. And when these energies, when these circumstances, when these conditions manifest, they are like the nurses. The idam is like the medicine. Yeah? The guru is like the physician. So here the guru, in particular, this guru principle is in the form of Milarepa. And you can also say in the form of Milarepa, in the life experience of Milarepa, in the example of Milarepa. So here we think of Milarepa, recall Milarepa's great deeds, and think of how Milarepa's mind is Buddha, hence Guru. Milarepa's speech, what he said, what he uttered, what he sang, is the Dharma, and Milarepa's actions is the Sangha. So just simply to bring to mind Milarepa, his example, his life, his struggles, his achievements, instantly brings in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. And then with that, we say the refuge prayer. I and all other migratory beings without exception take refuge until the state of enlightenment. In Venerable Shepa Dorje, the embodiment of the excellent three and the three roots. I and all other migratory beings without exception take refuge until the state of enlightenment. In Venerable Shepa Dorje, the embodiment of the excellent three and the three roots. I and all other migratory beings without exception take refuge until the state of enlightenment. In Venerable Shepa Dorje, the embodiment of the excellent three and the three roots. Now bodhicitta again. For the sake of all of mother sentient beings equal to the infinity of space, becoming liberated from the ocean of samsara, I vow to accomplish the supreme state of Shepa Dorje. For the sake of mother sentient beings equal to the infinity of space, becoming liberated from the ocean of samsara, I vow to accomplish the supreme state of Shepa Dorje. For the sake of mother sentient beings equal to the infinity of space, becoming liberated from the ocean of samsara, I vow to accomplish the supreme state of Shepa Dorje. Shepa Dorje is one of Milarepa's names. Then next on page 9 is the 7-branch prayer. So these 7 branches, meaning that this particular prayer has 7 elements to it, 7 parts to it, 7 branches, 7 limbs to it. These 7, the first one is paying homage. Second is to present offerings. Third is to expose all our negative, confused patterns of behavior, past and present. So often called confession. But of course, the English word confession has a lot of baggage in this culture. In the Tibetan, it has the connotation of to expose, meaning not to hide them anymore. Because if we continue to hide them, if we continue to be ignorant of them, then we continue to create the causes of suffering. And then we can't handle, right, the effects of those causes. See, if we could handle, right, the effects of suffering, then yeah, there's no need to care about what you're creating. But the fact is that we can't handle when these causes begin to ripen, right? So then pay attention. So the confession. And then the fourth is to rejoice. Rejoice in all the good, and rejoice in all the virtuous actions of others. Expose the neurotic, unhealthy, crazy behavior that we engage in, and then rejoice in the, the ways in which others are conducting themselves in positive ways. And this is also to help us to not do what we do more readily, which is to pick on others' faults and think that we are faultless. And this is a particular way of equalizing. Uh, of course, I think this was also given in a culture where the phenomenon of like self-hate is not so strong, but rather, there's an instinctive kind of pride. I'm right, you're wrong. But even in cultures where the phenomenon of self-hate is strong, somewhere in there is still that mix of I'm right, you're wrong. Yeah. And so here to rejoice in the good that others are doing is not that kind of rejoicing where we rejoice and you say, I'm not capable, but rather to rejoice and to say, I too can do that. And this is so wonderful. Then it is to request the Buddhas, the awakened ones, to teach the Dharma. And that is the fifth. And that is another way to think about that, is to rejoice in the availability of the Dharma in whatever form the Dharma takes. Yeah, so don't limit that to just officially Buddhist things, but rather any teachings, any methods, any ways that can help us be free from the three poisons of attachment, aversion, and ignorance. We rejoice in that. We request, we implore whoever has access to those teachings to teach them widely, broadly. And then the sixth limb here is to request these beings, these sublime beings, to remain long in this world. In one way, we say we request them to stay in this world longer, but it also means to request them to not leave us, to not leave us, not just with death, but the idea that Buddhas, bodhisattvas who have taken the vow of bodhicitta exist only for the sole purpose, exist in a particular place, in particular time, only for the sole purpose of benefiting those beings there with Dharma. And if those beings have exhausted their karma, then frequently these sublime beings leave, depart. And so with death, with going somewhere else, various ways. And so this is from Buddha's life. It is said that when he hinted that he was, that it's a juncture where he is to leave, it is said that Ananda, his attendant, his closest attendant and his trusted kind of cousin, not kind of, but cousin, didn't have the presence of mind to say, no, please don't leave, please remain. Because just saying that is creating merit. Please don't leave. So it is said that he did not say that. And the Buddha hinted 3 times like, well, maybe it's time to go. And Ananda was too busy. It's actually said that because Ananda, unlike the other disciples close to him, wasn't awakened yet. So he was still kind of wrapped up in his own confusions. So all maybe he could think of was like, oh no, he's leaving. Rather than saying, Lord, for the benefit of all beings, please stay longer. He didn't do that. He froze with the thought of Buddha was not going to be around anymore. Maybe he was thinking about, how is this movement going to continue? What's going to happen? So he got worried about all these things rather than the central reason for his teacher to be with him, which is to teach and benefit beings. So he said that he didn't say that, and later he was chastised by the council of elders for that, for this fault. And so then, because of that, it has become a tradition to request the Buddhists to remain in this world. I remember that when I took a group of students to Tibet, we met a very respected teacher at the head monastery of the Drigong Kagyu lineage in Tibet. And Gelong Tenzin is like the chief, like retreat master at the monastery. This is kind of a special feature of the lineage, that there's always a retreat master that anchors the whole valley, basically, and beyond, of course. But he's the one that gives instructions, like pith instructions. And many of these retreat masters don't even do like empowerments and transmissions in a formal way. Almost the sense that their main task, their main purpose is to be in retreat themselves. Like maybe all the afternoons they're in retreat. And like for the first 15 days of the month, there's a window next to where they sit in their retreat hut that they open. The first 15 days in the morning, so people could come and ask for instructions. And then even the first 15 days, all the afternoons, they're not available. Then the next 15 days, whether it's morning or afternoon, they're not available because they themselves are doing their practice and doing their retreat. So Gelong Tenzin Nyima was not well and very obviously dying. But he met with us. I think we were the last group of outsiders that he met with. He was actually sitting outside of his room. So the Rinpoche, the young Rinpoche that interpreted for us, and I said to Rinpoche, I said, please request Gelong Rinpoche, the old teacher, to remain, And he said, Gelong Rinpoche would scold you if you said that. Because Gelong Rinpoche will say, this is what the Buddha has been teaching you all this while. That all compounded phenomena are subject to change. I am no different. How can I be the exception to this? But in my heart, I thought, of course, that is the Dharma, and that's what the bottom line is. But it doesn't mean that the disciples do not say. And even if you say and you're scolded, that scolding is the blessing. Then you get to hear those instructions. So then, and if you're Asian, you kind of get that, But Americans, we're very practical people. We cut to the chase, right? We say, well, he wouldn't like that. Don't ask him. But in this, in this kind of like, no, the student's job is to request and then to be turned down if it needs to be turned down. And that's the way of training. But we don't like to be turned down either. So it's not just like, oh, we're not going to, you know, disturb this person, or also we don't like to be turned down. We want to be confident. All of us don't like, not just you. All of us don't like to be turned down, right? So we kind of like snoop around to see, is it likely to going to be a yes before I'm going to ask, But in Vajrayana, if you're training in Vajrayana and you're training where the guru is the path, then that path includes the guru saying no. And then you learn, do I repeat the request, or is that really a no? But here, in the seven limb prayer, seven branch, that's the meaning here in the sixth limb, like, requesting the teachers. And sometimes teachers are obviously teachers, and sometimes teachers are not obviously teachers. So it's not only limited to those who come with a label that says Buddha, or those who come with a label that says teacher, right? So when we recognize guidance is coming from someone, then, we say, please don't leave. We appreciate, like this guidance. I appreciate this guidance. Then finally, the seventh limb is to dedicate. To dedicate all of this. To dedicate all of this to dedicate all of this, to the awakening, to the enlightenment of all. They maybe just need to be reassured that they can look around. So those are the seven branches. So page 9 and page 10. Let's offer these seven branches. Homage to your mind, in which I have undivided faith, as being essentially one with the innate self-aware Dharmakaya. I offer you, the all-pervasive Lord of the Pure Lands, clouds of Samantabhadra's offerings, actual and imagined. All sins, downfalls, and non-virtues accumulated since beginningless time. I confess them all from my heart with profound guilt and remorse. I rejoice in all the righteous deeds of others and in their virtuous activities now and forever. May the sound of Dharma, the stainless elixir, resound in accordance with the dispositions of limitless sentient beings. On the throne of compassion, may the glorious Rupakaya that benefit others sit firmly cross-legged, never untying the Vajra knot. I dedicate the virtues accumulated in the three times and the innate virtue to the attainment of supreme enlightenment without exception. Renee, it's okay to prop open the door. It's somewhat warm too, so.
Sorry?
It's okay to prop open the door.
Oh.
Yeah, it's somewhat warm too, so then people will feel more at ease to walk in. Thank you. Uh-huh.
Can you talk more about innate virtue?
Yes, so there's a reference here. So the question is, what is this innate virtue? There's this question here. And this innate virtue is basically Buddha nature. The very source, the very core of our being, which is positive, that's the innate virtue. That's what innate virtue is referring to. Then in the next part, on page 11 and 12, that part is called self-blessing. It's another word for what we often call generation stage, more specifically self-generation, which is to imagine. The more commonly used word is visualize, But I don't like to use that word a lot because many of us think that it's about having a mental vision, like an image, and then we fight and struggle with that. You know, we think that it's about image. It's about like, capturing a picture in the mind. Actually, more basic. Of course, there's that aspect, but even more important than having this mental image is to feel. Is to feel. Basically, feel what? Feel that I am deity. To feel that I am deity. No question about that. Then you can go work on the details of what that deity looks like. So you want to stabilize, acclimatize, familiarize this radical notion that I am deity, complete and perfect from the beginning. To feel that. Then all the intricate description is to help us kind of sharpen our minds. To the degree that we can have a clear image, then the mind is sharp. Then the mind is sharp, is clear, is precise. But you see, if you don't get it first, that more fundamental is that trust, that confidence that I am deity. If you miss that point and you get caught up in, I can't see this very clear. I get the face, I lose the body. I get the feet, I've lost the arms. And then 4 arms. And then 3 faces. And which leg is bent and which leg is straight? I can't get it all straight, right? So then you get stuck over there, which is not useful. So the fundamental one is this thing called supreme or divine or Buddha confidence, that I am Buddha. Then there is the aspect of clarity, which is as you can. You want to see all the features of this deity, because each of the features of these deities is an outer sign of an inner quality. And that's called recollecting or thinking of, being mindful of purity. And meaning all purity here refers to all the virtues that the form represents. So for example, Vajravarahi or Vajrayogini here, the main face, and then there is the south face. The south face signifies the Dharmakaya. The main face signifies the Rupakaya, the form body. So you recollect what all these, holding this implement, that implement, Avalokiteshvara, 4 arms, holding this or that implement, means this and that. So that's the element of purity. And then the element of clarity is seeing clearly. But the element of purity and clarity, think of this whole practice as like a tricycle with 3 wheels. The leading wheel is the one in front, and that's the most important. That's the confidence. I am deity. That's called divine pride. And the front wheel of divine pride is to be supported by the other smaller wheels. So mainly that divine pride, that confidence. So that's why it's called self-blessing. Because you already have the power to bless, because you are already the deity. So that's 11 and 12. And here what is described is Heruka, meaning Chakasamara, and Vajrayogini in union, together, standing. Today, we don't need necessarily to focus in that way. But we'll spend a few moments. If you want, quietly, you can read through the description. And if you feel a connection to thinking of yourself, your divinity appearing in this form, then just rest in this form. And if you want to repeat the mantra silently, you can do that. But if you have some other idam, if you have some other meditative deity, it is okay to substitute at this section of this practice. Of course, if we were doing a group practice, then there is the performance element of this. And there is a reason for the performance too. When we are in a group all together, the performance aspect can heighten our experience with all the special effects, like the drums, the bells, the gongs, the incense, the brocade, and all of that, right? It can heighten our experience. But when we do it personally at home, or now in a more contemplative way, then the emphasis is not so much like heightening and all the special effects and all of that, but it's more to kind of experience these key points. So now page 11 and 12, you can read that if you want. If not, just now meditate in yourself as the Yidam deity. And this is the preparation for Milarepa appearing in the space in front of us, which is the next section. Now just listen as I describe from the text, as I read from the text, how Milarepa appears in the space in front of you. The nature of the mind that is primordially pure is Buddha. On a stacked lion throne of the purity of the 5 pranas, the 5 energies, it's 100-petaled lotus cushion of the purity of the 5 nadis, 5 inner channels. On top of that, upon a full moon of the purity of the 5 essences, is a golden Om syllable, which is the very embodiment of all the Buddhas of the 3 times, past, present, future. From the Om syllable, rays of light radiate, benefiting sentient beings, blessing sentient beings. All these lights are reabsorbed into the syllable which then transforms completely into Milarepa, the Venerable Shepa Dorje, who is reddish with a white glow, with a reddish complexion, and he's looking directly at you with a slight smile. Clad in white cotton, he wears a meditation belt that holds his knee. He has a tangle of hair, and the remaining of his hair is loose like leaves of a willow tree. His right hand brandishes the indestructible vajra of emptiness, and his left hand holds a vase of elixir of deathlessness. Humming the sound of Dharma in the mesmerizing melodies of his experiential songs, he sits in the manner of enjoyment. He is the emanator of ecstasy. Surrounded by myriad Jakinis spread out like clouds, sitting above him is the assembly of all the gurus of the lineage. And they are all conferring the supreme empowerments. Meanwhile, Idam deities of all kinds, standing and sitting in front of Milarepa, rain down accomplishments, while Dharmapalas and guardians at the edge of the throne ward off obstacles. Rainbow lights like clouds spread in the middle space, and rays of light emanate from the three vajras at the three places of these deities, in their crown center, in their heart center, and then as well as the throat center. These rays of light emanate, going to the Pure Lands, such as Abhirati and others, to invite the wisdom beings to come and dissolve inseparably into the visualization in front of us. Now think that Milarepas and all the three jewels and the three roots, their blessings all dissolve into the Milarepa and all the deities that we have brought in front of us. And then together on page 15 at the bottom, we'll say that, addressing Milarepa and the host of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, Dakas, Dakinis, Dharmapalas, all in the space in front of us. Buddhas and Bodhisattvas from all directions and all times who regard migratory beings with wisdom and compassion, with your invincible, miraculous powers for the benefit of all migratory beings, come forth from the limitless Pure Lands. As sentient beings such as I increase our devotion, and as you love all migratory beings as a teacher towards his disciples, may you come with the power of your compassion to this place. At this time, as we invite you with the power of our faith, E Arali Pems Vajra Samaja, Lord Shepa Dorje and your heirs, may you kindly consider migratory beings with your compassion, and steadfastly remain bestowing upon our three doors the great blessings of your body, speech, and mind. Tishta Bhadra Hom Samaya Sattam. Whole embodiment of the five bodies, the all-pervading lords of the mandalas, the clear physical manifestation of great primordial wisdom, the single sufficient refuge, cotton-clad venerable one, yearning with absolute devotion, I pay homage with my three doors. Namo Namah. I feel the limitless and vast dimension of the ocean of Pure Lands, with cumulus clouds of Samantabhadra's offerings, including drinking water, washing water, flowers, incense, lamps, superior perfumes, food and music, and offer them. Om Guru Hasa Vajra Saparivara Argyam Padyam Pushpe Dupam Aloke Gente Nevede Shabda Pratija Soha. To the glorious Guru, the Lord of the Four Kayas, I offer my body, speech, and mind, as well as every outer, inner, and other existing offerings. In the essential identity of the object of offering, the offerer, and the offering itself, I offer you these as the great single taste without extremes. May you kindly grant the siddhis without effort. The outer, inner, and secret offerings. Here it just says the outer, inner, and other existing offerings. But normally you'll come across outer, inner, and secret offerings. The outer offerings are actual offerings that you offer. So to whatever your ability, you want to gather those offerings, right? Go to Trader Joe's or go to, wherever you shop and buy the offerings and offer them. And often it's also good is if those offerings that you have offered that you yourself don't consume. In Tibet, actually, the tradition is to give it to put it out and whatever wild animals take them, they take them. Here, I don't know, whichever way is convenient for you. If it could be offered to other people, do that. If not, you can put it out if it is the right thing to do. But the idea is that you're not keeping it for your own use. When you make an offering, it should be offered away. That's the outer. And so it is important to, or it is, well, let me rephrase. It is very beneficial. It can be very helpful to engage in outer offering. Sometimes we think, oh, inner offering is more meaningful. But I think for many Americans, Westerners, as it is, we are too much in our heads. So, arranging offerings in the shrine is very beneficial. Now then, of course, many of us don't live in a household where necessarily other people get that. And then perhaps we don't live in a house or in a situation where there's too much space for those offerings. Guess what? There is a temple here. You can do it here. If doing it at home, for whatever reason, is not very easy or not very convenient. So coming to the temple to do those offerings can be very helpful, because to do it properly involves the exercising of a number of kind of qualities, right? Carefulness, mindfulness, sincerity, openness of mind, respect, delight. So those, yeah, are qualities that we should bring to whenever we're making outer offerings. Outer offerings could also be given to our elders, and also to family, to those in need, to teachers, in whatever form of offerings. There's one teaching where in the Buddhist text it says, Buddha taught somewhere that to give to spiritually more advanced beings generates more positive effect. Now, of course, some of us might think, I don't know if I like that. But try to understand that the point being made there is spiritually more advanced beings. How do we know they're spiritually more advanced? Because they are benefiting others. They're actually benefiting others. Not because they have fancy titles, they have all sorts of, credentials. If they're not benefiting others, then that means they're not spiritually advanced. So those who are truly benefiting others, supporting their efforts is the meaning of making offerings. Offerings is not always just giving stuff, it's also helping them, supporting them in whatever ways. So then whatever they do can affect a lot more people. So actually, as Buddhist practitioners, we should pray for heads of states. Whatever you think of them, you pray that their bodhicitta will shine through. You have to, because they sneeze, and the rest of us, so to say, right, catch pneumonia, especially the weakest among us. So we pray for them. That's important. So that's one form of offering. We offer outer offerings. Inner offerings is the offerings that we ourselves experience first through our senses. So our sensory experiences can also be turned into offerings. Right now, our sensory experiences are usually not turned into offerings. They turn into things that I hog for myself, both pleasant and unpleasant. So I hog the pleasant experiences and I suffer the unpleasant experiences that come through the senses. But to make inner offerings is when, especially in the Vajrayana context, we say, when you experience something beautiful, you instantly have presence of mind to say, I offer these to my guides, to my gurus, to my idam, your meditation deity, because the meditation deity would only work if you have a very intimate connection with the meditation deity. And so at the beginning of practicing idam, we talk about approaching the deity or approximating the deity. So sometimes they call it the close retreat. It doesn't mean shut, it means proximity. So one method to become intimate with the deity is to always be able to think, this I offer to the deity. So whatever pleasant experiences we have, whether it's sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch, kind of touch that pleasant experience. So Vajrayana method, you don't have to go bad, bad, bad. You're experiencing pleasure, bad, bad, bad. That seems to be like, some people think that's, Buddhist practice. But it's not that. It's that you experience, and then you need to quickly have presence of mind to say, oh, this pleasance, this bliss, this little bit of satisfaction that I'm experiencing now, I offer. I offer to the beings, the sublime beings ahead of me, so that the power of that offering can facilitate those beings who are less fortunate than me to have these experiences that I'm having now. You see how it works? So in fact, somewhere someone explained one time, I've not found the exact reference. Jigten Sungön says, so the Buddha taught that to give to the sublime beings generate more blessings and power, merit, than to give to those that are less spiritually advanced. Then he said, somewhere else the Buddha also taught to give to those who need the most is also important, also very powerful. Then he says, how do you reconcile the two? Because in a way, right, the more sublime these beings, the lesser they need from us. But ironically, it seems to say that you should give to those who have no need, right? So those who are receiving our gifts due to their virtues, and then there are those who are receiving our gifts due to their needs. And so they say, how do we bring those two together? Actually, easy. You do both, yes, of course. But you can also do simultaneously. He says, give to those who need the most. If you don't have much, right? If you don't have much to share, then give to those who need the most, but remembering that whatever appearance they might be taking right now, in essence, they are sublime beings. So giving to angels among us without even knowing. Every guest that comes. The Bible talks about every guest that comes, every stranger that turns up at our door, that comes seeking for refuge. That's an angel. So give to those that are most needy because we don't have much. If we have enough, we give both. But if you don't have much, give to those who are most needy. But remember that whatever appearance they take, they are actually sublime beings. Because in fact they are. We are all Buddhists. But because of my perception and my projection, I project you as lesser. I see you as lesser. One of my teachers, Kenjin Rinpoche, says that you cannot perceive others as pure and Buddhist. It's not their problem. It's our problem. It's your problem. It's not other people's problem that you cannot see them as pure, as Buddhists. So we need to overcome that problem. We need to overthrow the tyranny of ordinariness. But there's really no way to overcome the tyranny of ordinariness of others if we don't first undermine and overcome the tyranny of thinking ourselves as ordinary. I can't. No, it's too hard. And then we get caught up in our own deluded narratives and taking them to be the last say on who we are. Yes, they might need some temporary say, and we might need to pay attention to them, but don't let them, at the very least, don't let them have the last say. So inner offering, you can make anywhere. As I was walking at the Big Crafty right before this, it's a lot of really beautiful things. Then I just think, oh, may this be offered. Let me offer my experience of this. Let me offer my experience of this to the sublime beings. Secret offerings is not, offerings that you make secretly. It means the most deep level of experience. And this deepest level of experience is the experience of the Dharma, and the truth of the Dharma. All the different aspects of what the Dharma is teaching, whenever we have those experiences, you offer them. You offer them, meaning when you have those experiences, then you're making offering to your reality as Buddha, outer inner secret offerings. Now we do the mandala offering, and here there is the outer mandala, which is the universe, as described in ancient Buddhist texts. Then there is the mandala of this body, which is the next one, called the inner mandala. And then there is the secret mandala, which is the experience that arise, all the experiences that arise when we engage in formal meditation. So see, mandala now is explained according to outer, inner, secret. So the outer mandala is this entire universe. We offer the Milarepa. We say, we give it to you. Then the inner mandala is this body. This body itself is a complete, right? It's a microcosm of the macrocosm. Then the secret mandala is the experiences that arise from profound meditation, which right now we might not have, so we pretend to offer that. And then the fourth, the absolute truth mandala, is the realizations that we have. The secret mandala is more the experiences that we have. The absolute mandala is the realizations that we have as a result of the experiences that we have in the secret mandala level. So nyam is experience. Not just any experience, but the experience that arises when we engage in mind training. And those experiences, they say, don't get attached to them because they're fleeting. But then without those experiences, you won't be able to have realizations. Realizations are the absolute truth mandala. And then you offer that as well. Page 19. Om Hri, the four untainted continents, the subcontinents and their surroundings, the precious sun and moon and the ocean and forest of trees and all the flowers, medicines and fruits that have ever existed. I offer the outer mandala to all the conquerors. Om Hri, my body, the aggregates, the dhatus, the ayatanas, and the apparent objects, this corporeal body, along with the mass of grasping's creation, the flesh, blood, and bone, and all the well-arranged, enjoyable mass of conjured offerings. I offer this inner mandala to all the conquerors. Om Hri, by means of the enjoyment of the joy of lefty bliss, of method wisdom, the marvelous enjoyments of the joys of non-dripping, in the secret exercise of the father and mother in union, I offer the secret mandala to all the conquerors. Hung Hri, the outer and inner indivisible, thusness that is free from the four extremes, the offering and offerer in essence non-existent, is this self-aware, self-effulgent absolute truth. I offer this absolute truth mandala of the natural condition to all the conquerors. To the assembly of gurus who have fully perfected the three kayas, I offer the outer, inner, secret, and thusness offerings. Please accept my body, wealth, and all that appears and exists in their totality, and grant me the unsurpassed supreme attainment. Om Guru Rena Mendala Puja Mega Samudra Saparana Samaye Ahom. I pay homage to and praise the one known as pleasant to hear, who in the pitch darkness of the north is like the sun shining on a glacier. To all those who are worthy of praise, I shall bow with replicas of my body, equal in number to dust in the universe, and continuously give praise with utmost devotion. This praise on the top of 22, I pay homage to and praise the one known as pleasant to hear, who in the pitch darkness of the north is like the sun shining on the glacier, is said to have been offered by Naropa in India. So Naropa never met Milarepa face to face as two humans. But when Milarepa's future teacher, Marpa, was in India receiving teachings from Naropa, one day as they're walking together, Naropa turned and faced northwards towards Tibet, and he uttered this praise. So Marpa was kind of surprised and said, who are you addressing this to? And then he made this prophecy. He said, in the future, you will have a disciple. You will meet a disciple. And his name is pleasant to hear. Topaga in Tibetan, Topaga. Pleasant to hear. And I am offering this to him because he will be such a sublime being. So the grand teacher. So later, when Marpa was out on his field, he's a professional farmer, Marpa. When he was on his field working, this young man came, and he knew that this was Tobaga. Then he's like, my teacher's prophecy is being fulfilled now. Then he said, now I need to really help this young man. And then he tortured him. Seemingly. And so make sure, you don't end up with a guru that's actually, a sociopath and not a guru. The next few pages are very special prayers, devotional prayers. All the words are really kind of devotional. I'm skipping ahead to the bottom, or rather the top of page 29 in English. This prayer. We'll do that to get address the Milarepa in the space in front of us. Persevering in accord with your Guru's instructions and by completely sacrificing your own life, you who uphold the doctrine of the practice lineage and have attained the siddhis, Mila Dorje Gyaltsen, I supplicate you with yearning devotion. Continue. For the generation of renunciation and sadness, and for the self-recognition of the self-existent, I supplicate you, please hold me with your compassion. And now we sing the supplication, which translates to, Lord Milarepa Dorje, I supplicate you. Padme. Pad. Jemila Sheba Durjela Sowa Devso Jemila Sheba Durjela Sowa Devso Jemila Sheba Durjela Sowa Devso Jemila Sheba Jela Sorva Devso Jemila Sheba Durjela Sorva Devso Jemila Sheba Durjela Soa 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 So Jemila Sheba Durjela Soa So Jemila Sheba Durjela Soa Devso Jemila Sheba Durjela Soa Devso Jemila Sheba Durjela Soa Devso Jemila Sheba Durjela Soa Devso. So now we turn to the songs of Milarepa. Here I have a very nice little bookmark, actually, from Barbara, something that she picked up many, many years ago in California, called West Coast Print Center. No page yet. I'm talking about this. So it's a very nice woodblock print of Milarepa on that side. And then on this side, it says, I am Milarepa. I am he who goes forward regardless of others. I am the homeless yogin. I am he who never cares what happens. I am he who never lets go whatever arises. I am the beggar without wealth. I am he who thinks not of external reckoning. I have not any discrimination as to dwelling in this place. I am he who is victorious in all the practice of meditation. I am a crazy man who likes to die. I am he who needs nothing whatsoever. I'm he who never lets go. Whatever arises doesn't mean he's grasping, meaning he recognizes everything as they arise. And because we don't recognize them, then we get dragged around. So now page 10 of the Songs of Milarepa, we are in the midst of this section called 6 words that sum it all up. So, what are these 6 words? These 6 words are to be found on page 12. And so he's talking about 6 topics. And these 6 words are on page 12, somewhere in the middle, that last section for that song. These are the view, meditation, and experience, corrective methods, conduct, and fruition. These are the 6 words. These are the 6 topics covered in this song. So we have already looked at view, but let me kind of remind you again how these 6 work together. We talk a lot about meditation. Here, meditation means to familiarize and to stabilize. So it's a little bit different, right? From, say, mindfulness meditation done for relieving stress or, managing pain. And apparently that's very helpful for many people. Here, it's about familiarizing or stabilizing ultimately what? The view. The view, what is the view? The view is understanding the nature of reality. To understand the nature of reality through philosophical analysis, which is something that the Buddha taught. Yeah. To analyze and to realize the nature of reality by analytical reasoning, by philosophical engagement, that is Madhyamaka, for example, and Chittamatra system, and Vaibhashika, Sautrantika, all the tenet systems, to systematically kind of analyze reality with a finer and finer comb, so that our view becomes finer and finer. So then we realize selflessness of persons and selflessness of phenomena. These are called the 2 selflessness. Selflessness of persons, meaning I, me, mine, all that, right? In the end, you cannot find this unchanging I that we instinctively think needs to be protected, needs to be taken care of, needs to kind of attend to, as opposed to other over there, to see the selflessness of persons. So that it's not just your own person, you also see the selflessness of all persons. That's the first kind of selflessness. The more subtle kind of selflessness is called the selflessness of phenomena. Meaning, so if we no longer see this as a concrete, non-reducible I, then we might then think, oh, Whereas I don't exist, the qualities associated with the I, that I am male, so maybe I don't exist, but maybe maleness exists fundamentally. Humanness exists fundamentally. Tall or short or average exists fundamentally. Fat or thin exists somehow fundamentally as qualities. The selflessness of phenomena is pointing in the direction of seeing how all these qualities, all these labels also don't ultimately exist. That I'm patient, that I'm impatient, that I'm an angry person, that I'm a loving person, all these are nonetheless still labels. And then if you reduce it down to its kind of bare level, then we say all the 50 types of afflicted minds, and then the 4 elements of the body, so the basic building blocks of who we say we are, who we think we are. All those basic building blocks are the phenomena, are the dharmas with a small d. And those too are selfless, lacking a self. So that's the view from the analysis philosophical tenet system direction. There's also the view that is to be established or to be pointed out through meditation, through more specifically Mahamudra direction. There is not so much pointing about the emptiness of this or that, but rather to recognize nature of mind. And that's what we need to stabilize. Once nature of mind has been recognized, then meditation is essential to stabilize, to deepen, to make that experience constant, irreversible. When you reach that point, finally, then it's what we call Buddha. They give the example of when you smelt gold ore and remove the impurities. No matter how you treat your gold, the ore would never run back into the gold anymore. I mean, you might even treat the gold in such a way that it's exposed to the elements, and then again, a layer of crud is going to cover it, right? But then it's just on the surface. The impurities that have been removed from gold, when you separated gold from, all the other stuff in their natural state, once you've separated that, gold is always just gold. It doesn't go back to being mixed up with the other stuff. When you have reached that point, then we call you Buddha. Before that, we practice to stabilize. So that's meditation. Through meditation, we begin to have experiences. And then we learn from these experiences, meditative experiences. We're not talking about, going to Paris for Christmas as an experience, or going to Disney World for Thanksgiving as an experience. We're talking about meditative experiences. Then in the course of engaging in meditation on the path, problems would arise. Problems specifically related to practice would arise, and so corrective methods are given. Then while pursuing meditation, we need to conduct ourselves in a certain way, because we're not just always sitting there on the meditation cushion. We have to relate to everyday life. So when we relate with everyday life, what kind of conduct, what kind of behavior should we have? That's conduct. So with meditation, with an experience coming together with meditation, with corrective methods to correct problems that arise, and the proper way, the supportive way, the conduct, all of that eventually leads to fruition, the state of Buddha. So these are the 6 topics. So last time, We covered the view already, but just so we have the whole picture again, I'm going to read through this whole song. I prostrate to all the lamas, Lotan and you all, come here and listen well. So Milarepa is singing this song to this person called Lotan and all the others that are with Lotan. So he begins by singing, do you know what appearances are like? If you don't know what appearances are like, whatever appears is an appearance, not realized, they are samsara. Realized, they are dharmakaya. When appearances as dharmakaya shine, there's no other view to look for. There's no other view to find. To look for is the searching part, to find is to finally discover. No more of that effort necessary. Do you know how to rest your mind, which is the definition of meditation? Meditation in this context is just simply resting your mind. To rest your mind in what? To rest your mind in the view that you have been introduced to. If you don't know how to rest your mind with thoughts jumping all around, then let your mind rest uncontrived. Rest with a child's independence. Rest like an ocean free of waves. Rest with a candle flame's clarity. Rest like a corpse without arrogance. Rest like a mountain so still. There simply is no name for what mind is really like. Do you know how experiences shine? If you don't know how experiences shine, they are like the sun waking up the night. You don't need to throw thoughts away. No ground, just like a dream. No fixation, like a water moon. Nothing really there, like a rainbow. Directionless, like the open sky. This is how experiences shine. Do you know how to fix it when things go wrong? Here's how to fix it when things go wrong. Strong winds, but all within the sky. Big waves, but all in the ocean. Thick clouds, but all within the blue. Frantic thoughts, but all within the unborn. Thoughts are strong, but their nature is unborn. Engage in balanced awareness. Apply the teachings for the mind riding the wind. And when the thief of thought comes around, apply the teachings for recognizing him. And when you lose your mind to something outside, be like the ship captain watching his crow fly. Do you know what conduct is like? If you don't know what conduct is like, be like the great lion, powerful and strong. In the mud, be like the lotus in full bloom. Be like the elephant running loose and crazy. Be like the polished crystal, beautiful and bright. Now, do you know how the fruition dawns? Here's how the fruition dawns. From non-thought comes Dharmakaya. From bliss itself, Sambhogakaya. From clarity, Nirmanakaya. From native mind or natural mind, the essence Kaya. I'm the one who has got the four Kayas. I'm the one who has these four Kayas. The scholars can only talk about the four that can never leave the Dharma Dhatu. These are the view, meditation, and experience, corrective methods, conduct, and fruition. They shone in this yogi's experience. Now you should practice the same. Now briefly going back, the first one, what is the view in the context of this, in Milarepa's context of giving instructions, direct instructions, right? Milarepa did not engage in at all much of those debates on the philosophical level. He found them to be kind of unnecessary. But it should also be pointed out that that method is certainly also used. It's just that in Milarepa's case, his kind of realization and his kind of abilities are such that without using much jargon from the philosophical tradition, from the doctrinal tradition, he's able to give very direct instructions. And these instructions, in some ways, you have to remember, were meant for particular individuals. So we have to kind of see where we are, and not quote Milarepa like, we're fundamentalists quoting some scripture. So the first one, the view. What is the view? The view is that all these sense experiences that we have, what's called here appearances, they are exactly just that, appearances. But when we don't realize that appearances are simply appearances, that's the beginning of samsara. When Buddhists talk about beginning of things, we're not talking about long time ago when things happened. So Buddhist Genesis is not about long time and long time ago. It's talking about in the immediacy of this experience, right now. So right now, when appearances arise, when we don't realize it, in that moment, we have produced samsara. But if we realize that appearances are just appearances, then they are dharmakaya. They are the reality body. And kaya here means corpus, body, substance. So this is dharmakaya, very fancy language, right? But I think, and don't get distracted by the fancy vocabulary. We could translate it perhaps as the stuff of reality. When you realize that appearances are simply just that, appearances, then appearances are just the stuff of reality. And there's no other view that you need to work on. If you catch that, if you get a glimpse of that, on the heart level, not just on the intellectual level, on the heart level, and you go, then you already have the view. With that view, now you can rest your mind. Rest it where? Rest it in that view, which is the next word. Then he gives some examples of what attitude you should have when you're trying to meditate. When your thoughts are jumping around, don't try to make your thoughts stop just like that. Instead, he says, let your mind rest uncontrived. Don't try to silence the noise by yelling above it. You just make it even more noisy, according to this instruction. Now, of course, does this mean there is no place in my practice life for shamatha meditation? Where you deliberately bring your mind back to here, bring your mind back to your breath, bring your mind back to your breath, bring your mind back to your breath. No, there is a purpose for that. There is a time and a place for doing that, for cultivating that, for strengthening that muscle. But do that with the understanding that actually the most profound way of not being dragged around by our thoughts is not to engage those thoughts. But it is not to engage those thoughts by checking out, which we are all very good at. Here, not engaging the thoughts is not checking out, but to be totally present to those thoughts, to those feelings, to those emotions, but you don't feed them. You simply witness or watch them. Why? Because when you witness and you watch them, you see what they are truly made out of. And what are they made out of? the stuff of reality, the Dharmakaya. So the more opportunities you have to see, yeah, these thoughts, these emotions, that is like torrential, the more you will have the chances of seeing what? Seeing what?
The lack of substance.
Which is seeing
Reality.
the stuff of reality, Dharmakaya. Right?
So that's a better, or a, not better, but that practice is very different from going back
Plain
to
old
the plain
shamatha.
old shamatha.
Yes. But certainly in the more kind of more complete training of the Mahamudra path, you do a lot of shamatha. Because it's easy to think, oh, I'm just going to do this. When in fact, you're just being dragged around by your thoughts. So first gain some independence from your thought by training in shamatha. That's not the solution. From there, then you need to no longer drive away thoughts. You just turn up for your thoughts. Yeah? Not just you, me. Talk is easy. But we all have to train, Just be there, present for the thoughts. Then you pay attention. You're not talking, you're not feeding, you pay attention. Awareness. And you note these thoughts, and then you see, and you look, and you look, and you look. Then you see the stuff of reality, the Dharmakaya, right? Because the view already says, when not realized, when you don't realize that they're appearances, then it's samsara. But when you realize that they're appearances, not just intellectually, but to really penetrate to the heart, that this is just appearances. These are just projections. Then, every time you see projection, appearances, what do you see? You see the Dharmakaya. So Gampopa has a very provocative kind of statement that actually exposed him to criticism from other great masters. Also great masters, like his contemporaries. But it's so provocative, his statement, that others kind of took exception to it. He says, in Tibetan, it's Nam to mang choku mang. Mang is a lot, strong. Mangpo is a lot, or strong. Namto, what is namto? What is namto? Any guesses? Chuku is Dharmakaya. Namto mang, chuku mang. Conceptual thoughts, meaning concepts, thoughts. When there is a proliferation of thoughts, he says, then there is a proliferation of Dharmakaya.
If you see it.
If you see it.
So a good time to do that is when you're upset.
If you have the power,
If
yes.
you can, yeah.
Yeah. Then when you're upset, then you're like, yippee!
Another opportunity.
I know this is kind of a violent example, but I can't think of another one. It's almost like, right? First, right, there's all these wild beasts that you're afraid of, right? Then you train in shamatha, you train in vipassana. Then now, you are a wild beast hunter. Now you go looking for them. The more the merrier. But of course, he was criticized because others said, hey, a statement like that, falling into wrong hands, wrong ears, can just kind of mislead people into thinking, yeah, I must be very advanced because I have a lot of concepts. No need to do anything, you know. But before you can just no need to do anything, here is a way of no need to do anything. Under meditation, he says, let your mind rest uncontrived, rest with a child's independence. Here is talking about a child that is self-sufficient. You know, when a child is kind of playing by him or herself, you know, just very content. No need. Of course, the child will change his or her mind in a little bit, but that's not the point here. Here it's like a child's independence. This is play. Then like an ocean free of waves, meaning the ocean is not troubled by the waves. But it's also talking about the need to kind of train in letting the flaring of thoughts kind of subside. Because this is like before you are trained, right, to effectively hunt the beasts, the demons. Right? You first, you know, want to let things kind of settle, slow down, so that you can handle better. And rest with the candle's flame's clarity, not much movements. Rest like a corpse, don't react to whatever strong emotions that you have. Again, it's not don't react by shutting, by ignoring, but with full presence, don't react. With full awareness, don't react. Rest like a mountain, so still. So these kind of examples, these you know analogies given, you can even in your meditation think about this. It's just kind of be like a mountain, be like a candle flame. Right? These are like slogans that you can kind of remind yourself. So meditation. Then how do experiences turn up? How do experiences shine? They're like the sun waking up the night. How does the sun wake up the night?
Effortlessly.
Effortlessly.
Just by showing up.
Also, it is, he did not say like turning on a switch gradually, like the sun waking up the night. Gradual in the sense of not necessarily slow, but gradual in the sense of, you know, smoothly. No pauses, no hiccups. So patience. And you don't need to throw away thoughts. Don't need to drive them out. Just don't feed them and be present. No ground, just like in a dream. That means no basis. So dreams, there is no basis to them. No fixation, like a moon found in the water. Like, would you fixate on the moon that is reflected in the water? No. Except if you're a bunch of monkeys and trying to save the moon that has fell into the well. The Buddhist stories are often violent. So all these monkeys, you know, drowned because they were trying to save the moon that fell into the well. Sorry, monkey lovers. Nothing really there like a rainbow. Directionless like the open sky. So meaning, when these experiences arise, Don't make it like jagged. Don't make it like, just smoothly, like the sunrise. Yes.
What do you mean by that?
Don't make a big deal with them.
In other words, don't enhance it in any way.
Not so much don't enhance, but don't make a big deal. No, don't exaggerate. So no ground, don't need to throw away. No ground, just like a dream, no fixation. So in other words, react to them, respond to them with, again, awareness and presence, but don't get stirred up by them. Because these are experiences that are part and parcel of the process of waking up.
And,
It's the process that is unfolding.
and a jagged experience.
It's when we get caught.
But if we see through all experiences, including the jagged experience, then the jagged experience actually becomes another insight. Is that correct?
And so you see through it by, again, not reacting to it. Not reacting to it. And in this way, experiences can shine rather than drag us around. So, if you get caught up in meditative experiences. Yeah.
One of the things that I find is that meditative experience is not this smooth, gradual.
Mm-hmm.
It is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And what it is can be whatever it is. But if I apply
Mm-hmm.
a proper understanding,
Yes.
then smooth, jagged,
Mm-hmm.
The mind going someplace
Mhm.
else all the time. It's all fine. If one,
That's the meta smooth that is talking about here.
okay, understand.
Yeah, the meta smooth that is not concerned with smooth or jagged.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so you just see it like, the sun rising. It's waking up the night. In that sense of like a continuous. Then now it's about how to fix problems. Here's how to fix. Strong winds. So if you feel strong winds during your practice, so this is more specific to what you're talking about. How do you deal with these? Understand that these are all just winds within the sky. So rather than focus your attention on the winds, focus your attention on the sky. The space that allows for the noise to take place. Recognize that space, which in the context of noise is what? Silence. Can you hear the sound of silence? When a lot of emotions are jam-packed in our heart, what allows them to be there? That space within us. So focus more on the space within us. In this room, we don't see space. We see the things that occupy space. And if we see space, it is in relation to the stuff. Like in between two things, we see space. And only like that, But it's here kind of in another context in the Ganga Mahamudra Upadesha, the Ganga River instructions that Tilopa gave Naropa. It says, consider this question, right? Almost like giving him a koan. Right? It says, what does space rest upon? This is kind of using what all confirmed Buddhists already accept, which is everything, all the other four elements rest within space. Space is what makes other things possible. And then Tilopa says, but consider this question, what the space itself rests in. So that's the secret. That's a question, and that's the secret. Doesn't matter what the answer is, but the search for the answer is what the path consists of. Is that, you know, you train to what is this space? So here, thick clouds, but all within the blue. All is within that blue sky. Otherwise, there are no clouds. Frantic thoughts, but all within the unborn. That means the nature of mind. Thoughts are strong, but their nature is unborn. They are not truly there. They're only superficially there. They're only temporarily there. They are only there contingently. Contingency. Every situation we find ourselves in is simply a contingency. But we don't see, right, our circumstances as a mere contingency. We see it as a certainty. Some certainties we like, some certainties we don't like. So then we have to fight false demons and chase false gods. Not seeing that everything is just contingent. Contingent on other contingencies, on other contingencies. And there's no end to all these contingencies. Engage in balanced awareness. Apply the teachings for mind riding the wind. This is a reference to more specialized yogic practice. Related to those types of let the mind ride the wind, and then let the wind circulate in the body, things like that.
Like consciousness transference and things like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. But the last line there is important. Be like the ship captain watching his crow fly, or more relevant to us in a way. When you lose your mind to something outside, when you catch during meditation, but remember this section is about correcting. What are the things you can do to correct your meditation? So when you find that your mind has gone outside, it's gone all the way to Australia now, and you know, with all kinds of, you know, life that you could have there, you know, away from the United States for 4 years, you know, all those stories, you know, when you're meditating, you find that you're already there. He says, be like the ship captain watching his crow fly. What does that mean, right? The ship captain watching his crow fly. And this is talking about if you are a ship captain and if you had a pet crow, I don't know why you would want a pet crow, but you could, according to this. If you are already in the ocean, you don't need to keep your pet in the cage. And so if the pet parrot or crow accidentally got out of its cage, the ship captain is not really that concerned. Yeah, it's not going anywhere. It will come back. And so likewise, in this kind of meditation, Mahamudra, when you find that your thoughts have kind of gone away, don't panic. Don't create more waves to come waves. Don't try to yell above the noise to get silence. Simply just, once your awareness is there, and then it cannot harm you anymore. Whatever the emotion, whatever the story that's happening in Australia, it will come back. Awareness will, you know, stop that story very naturally and come back. So they say, come back. Do you know what conduct is like? If you don't know what conduct is like, then this is what you need to do. Be like the great lion, powerful and strong. So in some ways you could say, you cannot so easily give up. You need to have great courage, powerful and strong. Then also be like a lotus blooming in the midst of mud. Don't get dragged around by ordinary circumstances that might drag other people around. As I said, we have the Dharma, we have taken refuge. Do we want unfortunate things to happen for ourselves, for our community, or for our country, or for our world? No. But inevitably, when they happen, we cannot just get dragged by it and suffer like everybody else. Not that we don't want to suffer so that we can lord over others who are suffering, but we have to know to say, no, I'm Buddhist. I'm taken refuge in Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. And so I can be strong and powerful for others who need this strength right now, for others who need this support right now, for others who need this encouragement right now, because I have the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, they don't have. It's important to have this kind of pride. This is beneficial pride. Too often, I think we forget this part. And then we all also want to feel like, unless I'm wallowing in the mud with the rest of them, it looks like, I'm not a good person. Unless I'm also self-flagellating, or maybe not also, you see someone being whipped and you go, okay, I should flagellate myself now, so that I can be there with you. No, unless you're into those things, but otherwise, no, it's just pain. It's just suffering and you can't help others. Be like the elephant, running loose and crazy. Normally, of course, Milarepa is playing with this imagery, because many other places in Buddha's teachings, it says, don't be like a drunken elephant. And that's a lot more common than you would think. Drunken elephants. This is not just some kind of hypothetical example. In places where there are elephants, especially India, quite often elephants are drunk. You know how?
Fermented fruit.
Exactly, fermented fruit that they've eaten too much. And then when they are drunk, entire village would get trampled. And all the crops, not corpses.
Some of those too.
Yeah, and some of those too, exactly, crops that are planted, if you have heard of drunken elephants, they destroy everything. But here, be like the elephant running loose and crazy. What he's talking about here is, don't let the 8 worldly concerns make you a good person. The 8 worldly concerns make you a good person, supposedly good. Right? I'm an upstanding citizen. I'm a holy man. When in fact, all you're concerned about is the 8 worldly concerns. I don't want people to criticize me. I want people to love me. I want people to like me. I don't want to be censured. And I don't want to be censured and then lose the goodies that I have. Then seemingly doing well. He says, no. Be like a crazy elephant running with no concern. Not the kind of no concern where you're trampling on others' happiness, but throw these concerns to the wind. Do what you know you have to do now. Milarepa's way. Be like the polished crystal, beautiful and bright. So that other people can be reminded of the beautiful and bright. But your mind needs to be delightful and bright. Despite Milarepa living under very harsh conditions by all accounts, cold, bitterly cold, but he lived in caves, didn't have very yummy food at all, even when he was famous. But But despite all of that, he was polished crystal, beautiful and bright. Do you know how the fruition dawns? Here's how fruition dawns. From non-thought comes Dharmakaya. These three qualities, non-thought, bliss, and clarity, are three kind of levels of when you train your mind, when you meditate, you will experience these things. And so when non-thought, when you experience an absence of thought, recognize that this is Dharmakaya. When you experience bliss, recognize that this is what's called the Sambhogakaya. When you experience clarity, meaning awareness actually here, that's nothing but the Nirmanakaya. Of the three, it is said that Dharmakaya, realizing the stuff of reality, realizing the Dharmakaya, is beneficial to yourself. Yourself, you're liberated. Then when you're liberated, you manifest Sambhogakaya and Nirmanakaya for the benefit of others. So the bliss and the clarity or awareness that you experience, that is for others. Then the absence of thoughts, that is for yourself. And those two are inseparable. And hence, from the natural mind, that's the essence kaya. The essence kaya, the swabhavika kaya, the fourth body, the fourth corpus, is the three inseparable. And he says, I actually possess the four kayas, whereas those scholars just talk about it. So he says, these are the 6 words, and I practice them. And they shown in this yogi's experience. I have experienced them, he says. And so you should do the same. You should follow the same. Any questions? The fruition one is, kind of more informational, right? I mean, the others also seem kind of informational, but there's a little bit more in the others what you could kind of use. But the fruition is like, when the fruit comes, so don't worry about it. When the fruit comes, you can just taste it. Now, don't long for the fruit. Let's take a quick break and stretch our legs, and then we will do the last 2 songs in the last hour or so. which is how to remove hindrances and enhance the practice. Now, it's important that when you are listening to these songs, and me trying to explain the songs, to remember that this is not some sort of fundamentalist approach to any of these things. The song was given extemporaneously to the person that needed it. You may or may not be that person. So if you're going to be like, splicing details here, then you have wrapped yourself up in the thicket of views. Buddha tries always use that expression. But rather just, why did we do that Milarepa practice before we started? So that we are in this space of being at ease. So whatever we hear that enhances our practice, we take. This is not the place to split hairs. When we study Madhyamaka class, if we do that, then it's time to split hairs, to get as fine as possible, right? Because that's the approach. But here, it's not. And also realize that when he talks about more advanced things, he's not talking about solutions for preliminary meditations, which most of us are sort of there. Yeah, he's talking about such fine things that, can you note that the time it takes for me to snap this finger, 60 moments of emotion and thoughts have occurred. Can you see one moment of that? Probably not. Yeah, so generally when the song progresses further down, it's getting to that level of subtlety. And so then you say, well, then why are we talking about it? Just to get some idea, then let it go. Because when we're not there, let it go. But getting some idea plants a seed, provides the bigger picture, even if the bigger picture is not crystal clear. The bigger picture is not going to be crystal clear. This is redoing the whole internal system. If you think rewiring the electrical system in your house is complicated, if you think rewiring your computer is complicated, you think this is going to be simple? Why do we expect this to be simple? No. You're going to get it the moment you hear about it? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Then you feel, oh, increasingly it's just no. Sometimes you also feel like that. Milarepa says, let it go.
It does go. That's the problem.
Yeah, it does go. Yes.
I mean, let it go.
Yeah, let it or not, it will go.
Right.
Then what you hold on to is just your own kind of stuff about it. It is already past. So, in the Ajahn Chah's advice, right, to the philosopher professor that wanted to get into all the ins and the outs with him, he said, man, you're like someone who raises chickens, but instead of collecting their eggs every morning, you go around collecting their droppings.
Very carefully.
Yes, very carefully. Analyzing the droppings to see, if the chicken is healthy or not.
Maybe they're catching them for fertilizer.
Yeah, if you know how to use it as fertilizer, then even droppings are useful. But probably in that case, no.
But not useful if you think they're eggs.
Oh yeah, exactly. Not useful at all if you think mistaking the droppings for the eggs. Exactly. Good. And then mistaking the eggs for the droppings, right? So then, what a waste. What a waste if we mistake the eggs for the droppings. What a waste if we mistake the droppings for the eggs. Yikes. It'll be like stir frying it with tomatoes for your family lunch, you know. Then you better be a real Mahasiddha, a Buddha. Then it's all bliss. It's all Dharmakaya. Yeah? Whether it's, you know, tomato eggs or tomato droppings. It's all Dharmakaya. The next song, How to Remove Hindrances and Enhance Practice. So here Milarepa sings the song to this woman called Peldabum. Peldabum turned up earlier, the same name. And this was, remember the woman, the old woman that was yelling at Milarepa? And then, yeah, that cranky old lady. And then he said to him, you know, you have become an old nanny goat.
Isn't that the mother or grandmother of the maiden he's talking to first?
The Peldabum, the name turns up several times. Sometimes she seems to be old and sometimes she seems to be young. So yes, so then there's the explanation that this is like the younger daughter of, you know, the same family. So they're probably related, right? And so here, listen, Lady Peldabum, faithful and wealthy maiden. If meditating with the example of the sky is as easy as you say. So here, let me give some background. Peldabum comes to Milarepa and says, give me instructions on meditation. Then Milarepa says, you should meditate you should meditate in a way that understands that clouds are just the sky's play. And so just relax into the sky and let the clouds pass. Yeah. So for each of these metaphors that we're going to see, remember that Milarepa earlier in this encounter is giving her and say, you should meditate in this way, right? And you should meditate in this way, and you should meditate in this way. And then Peldabum comes back later to say, yes, I can do this. Yes, I can do this. Yes, I can do this. Yeah, do as you advise. Then Milarepa comes back and say, but if you think it is like that, you have to watch out for this. You have to watch out for this, which is this last part. So first part was he gives her instructions on how to meditate using these examples. Then she does it, and then she comes back. Now she has some experience already, right? Then Milarepa is starting to warn her that on a more subtle level, these types of hindrances are going to arise. You have to watch out for them. And so that is kind of the nature of how teachers, gurus were guiding their disciples. Not like one class like this. Then we're going over all the subjects. It's really that kind of one-on-one, you know, coaching or whatever you want to call it. Of course, you know, not that many Milarepas around, you know. So incredible merit. So these days, right, we celebrate, you know, the advent of technology and how technology makes knowledge available to way, way more people. And so on that end, we're like, wow, this is really wonderful. But how many people actually achieve first bhumi or second bhumi, practicing all these things with all this information? Very few. Whereas in Milarepa's time, very few people had access. People had to travel far, far away and really, 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 really want the Dharma. You know, well, it fits my schedule. Which is not to say, because this is our situation, right? So this is not said to guilt anyone, except to say, well, be realistic. How much you're going to immediately get out of hearing something, practicing something, because it's not that easy. So if we're realistic about how much, yeah, we're going to be able to digest and to get and to experience, then we won't give up so easily. Bit by bit is good. You cannot force something to grow. Whether that something is your own spiritual growth, yeah, or a spiritual community, that as much as I want this to grow, you cannot force it. In the Confucian stories, there's a Mencius Mengzi tells a story of this farmer, this young farmer, that ignorantly goes and helps his seedlings that he has planted to grow faster by pulling it up a little bit, every single one. And then, of course, he killed all of them. You can't. Yeah? So you just have to. You know, this much we're able to put in, you might get some understanding, So it builds up over time. So here, yeah, we are entering this advice at the third part of this ongoing conversation, ongoing guidance that Milarepa is giving Peldabu. So Milarepa here says, if meditating with the example of the sky is as easy as you say, clouds are just the sky's play, which is what, the instruction that he gave her. And then she comes back and she said, oh, it was easy. I was able to do that. And then she said, so stay within the depths of sky itself. So the first he said to her is like, meditate with the example of the sky. And so she did that. And then when she came back and she said, but then there are lots of clouds. Right? Using that metaphor, right? So meaning, I have so many thoughts coming up. Then he says, stay within the depths of sky itself.
Ignore the clouds, or ignore with mindfulness.
With mindfulness, understand the clouds arises within the sky. And that the clouds in some ways comes and goes. Not only that clouds comes and goes, but that in a way you could say it's natural for the sky to have clouds. But the clouds doesn't modify the sky. Yeah. So that you are not like trying to push away clouds. Let the clouds disperse of themselves. Sometimes the clouds will be so thick that you might suspect, is the blue sky still back there? It says, don't doubt. Even if you just remember the sky, when on a cloudy day like this, important to remember the sky. So stay within the depths of the sky itself, the deeper. If meditating with the example of sun and moon is as easy as you say, and so Milarepa also said to her, meditate like the sun and moon, meaning bright, brilliant, right? Example of brilliance in the daytime, which is the sun. Example of brilliance in the nighttime, which is the moon. Then she says, but then there are these stars and planets kind of blinking around. You say stars and planets are but its play, settle in the state of the sun and moon. The night sky is going to have stars and planets.
So is that distractions?
Yeah, all these are basically talking about distractions that arise. How do you relate to the distractions? If meditating with the example of the mountain is as easy as you say, so he says to her, you should meditate like the mountain, meaning unmoving. Plants and trees are but its play. So stay right with the mountain itself. And so she came back and she said, yeah, I was meditating like a mountain. And then there's all these plants and trees and creepers and, and kudzu. Then he says, you focus on the unmoving part. Then whatever wants to grow can grow. This is talking about don't create false enemies. The example I've used before, right? Kind of a greater sin than worshiping a false god is to fight, false demons. Which we often do. Right now, our afflictive emotions are really like demons. As Shantideva, points out very clearly. Right now, our afflictive emotions are really like demons. But actually, they're not demons. So at the first level, you need to recognize how they are behaving like demons and how you are under the control of these demons. Then, as your practice matures, you stop seeing them as demons. Yeah. And you begin to work with them. Work with them by transforming them. And then, on a more profound level, you have Gampopa's statement. The more concepts proliferate, the more Dharmakaya is present. It's not that afflictive emotions and things like that disappear so easily. It's that along the way, our ability to handle and to relate to them changes until they're finally purified. When they're purified, it's not as if that they are something to be removed, because in reality, they are just temporary obscurations or mistakes that have been illusorily conjured up by the conjurer, which is our afflictive emotions as well. Our basic I grasping onto I is the conjurer that conjured up all these things. And then he says, if meditating with the example of the ocean is as easy as you say, and then of course she said, but then there are lots of waves. Right? Here it says, waves are just the ocean's play. Settle within the depth of the ocean itself. Again, no need to say, stop, all these waves. But accept that waves are part of the ocean. And then within this ocean, there is a still point. Stay in that still point. Then waves can continue and it won't ruffle you. If meditating on your mind itself is as easy as you say, so finally he gave that instruction, just familiarize yourself with the mind. And she said, well, I can do that. But then there are lots of thoughts. That's when he says, thoughts are but your mind's play. So stay within the depth of mind itself. meaning nature of mind, rather than minds. Rather than getting dragged around by mind, whereas emotions, whereas feelings, all of that, penetrate to the level of nature of mind, essence of mind. The essence of mind is empty and yet aware and yet clear. And finally, it's all pervading, we say. All pervasive. So this song is just part of a longer song. If we had the whole longer song, then you can see, kind of go through each section. But here, I think you can kind of get it. Right? The thrust of it is like, don't get so distracted, so thrown out of control, so bent out of shape, right? With all these kind of surface level things. There is a deeper place. There is a depth that we should plumb. And not that we should hide down there, but that when we have seen what is down there, so to say, what is deeply there, then all of this is fine. Just like the clouds, they're fine. The waves and the oceans, they're fine. So right now, a lot of things that we don't like is not fine. But maturing in Dharma practice doesn't mean, right, that these things won't arise anymore. Even Buddha himself, right, was not beyond criticism. Lots of people disagreed with him. Lots of people criticized him. So it's not like when you become Buddha, those things disappear. People will continue. Due to their own karmas, their own projections, they will say or do whatever they will do. But what makes a Buddha is that from the Buddha's side, that's fine. These are like waves, these are like clouds, these are like plants and trees. There is a deeper understanding and realization that is big enough, you could say, to contain all of this. To contain all of this. The last song in this collection is called The Three Ways of Being Content. And the language here, the symbols used, the language, the expressions, is much more kind of Vajrayana in style. Yeah. So I bow down to my father lamas, in my body, this mandala of the victorious one, resides the deity, indivisible from the heart of the Sugatas in all the three times. Through the blessings of not clinging to sensory pleasures, day and night I make these offerings, content not to have anything outer to give. What is this body that we have? And so we have, all kinds of ideas of what this body is. But if we are Vajrayana practitioners, then we need to really understand this body is the mandala of the Buddhas. Every aspect of our being is an aspect of this mandala, this divine palace. And within this mandala resides the deity, which is indivisible from the heart of the Sugatas, of the Buddhas of the three times, past, present, and future. No other Buddha to be found. And nowhere else can this Buddha be found, except within us, within this body. And so when we do not cling to sensory pleasures, just as I was explaining, the inner offering, right? So in Vajrayana, you don't have to block your experience of the senses. Right? You don't have to categorically block them. Lock yourself in the room so that there's no beautiful things to see, there's no tempting things to smell, there's no, tempting taste to crave. No, in the Vajrayana way of practice is you experience these sensory pleasures, but drop the clinging, drop the grasping. How do you do that? By offering your experience of pleasure day and night. Day and night. And that's why in Vajrayana, although in Milarepa's circumstances, of course, he doesn't have all these things. But there's another aspect of Vajrayana where brocades are not just culture. Hats are not just culture. Robes are not just culture. But it's a method of relating to, you could say, the larger issue of embodiment. That we are beings with bodies. Earlier levels of the training, we relate one way with the body because we're too obsessed with it. So in the Sutrayana, the body is said to be a skin bag with 9 holes, oozing out yucky stuff. That life consists of waste management. In between, we do other things. In between, we fall in love, we file divorces. But basically, from beginning to end, it's just maintenance, waste maintenance, out of these 9 holes oozing out stuff. So that's kind of like the Sutrayana. In the Vajrayana, it said that this is the mandala. It is the mandala of deities. So day and night, no need to block your sensory experiences. No need to fear sensory experiences. Now again, you see, this is quite advanced practice. You cannot say, you cannot just say. Yes. So this advice that Milarepa is giving is given to people who have already a strong foundation in the Sutrayana. So this advice that Milarepa gives here is given to people who already have a strong foundation in Sutrayana, understanding of the body. So you get rid of the gross clinging to the body. The gross level of clinging to the body. But you cannot remain there, according to Vajrayana. Because if you remain there, then you already have a little bit of, now instead of attachment, you have aversion. So you first use sort of aversion therapy, basically. Because in Sutrayana, they talk about you meditate on rotting body. Monks do that. They go to the cemetery to look for bloated bodies, to see how yucky it is. To kind of, have its own aversion therapy without, being electrocuted and all of that. But it's basically sort of that approach. But if you stop there, then you would be out of balance. You'd have to transcend that. So the next point now here is, once you have some sort of freedom, once you have some sort of, you're no longer under the clutches of this kind of relating to the body, then you need to not be so tight and open up again. And now when pleasure is experienced through any of the senses, he says, offer them, offer them. And offer them to the yidam that you are. Or offer them, if you're not so confident yet of idam yourself, then offer them to your guru. And of course, if you're also not confident about the guru, then finish. No idam, no guru, then cannot practice Vajrayana. Right? So he's addressing this to people who practice Vajrayana. So we have to remember the context. Then he says, He's content, even though on the external level, he is absolutely a vagabond with nothing to offer. But he's saying, there's no need. I don't need to offer those things. I don't need a shrine. I don't need an altar, all of that, because, I can do it this other way. Because the whole point of having a shrine, having an altar, all of that is so that we do not cling to sensory pleasures, and day and night we are always making offerings. In the three realms, a self-arisen infinite palace, all six kinds of beings have the heart of the Sugata. That means Buddha nature. Through knowing it to be great primordial wisdom, everywhere I stay is an infinite palace. Everyone I accompany, or everyone that I meet, everyone that I interact with, is a deity. My mind's within the Dharma Dhatu, whatever I do, content not to have sacred symbols outside. And so he's saying, I don't need to live in a monastery. I don't need to have a temple. Because the monastery, the temple, the shrine, all of that is to lead to this understanding, which is the three realms of existence, meaning samsara, is actually spontaneously, innately already the infinite palace of the Buddhists. So everywhere I stay is an infinite palace. No matter where I go, no matter who I'm with, they're all deities because I am deity. So the story of, Ananda Buddha's, again, loyal attendant and cousin. One day they arrived late in the town and nobody would give them food. Finally, as they were leaving the town on the outskirts, there was a horse breeder. So they went to his house to try to see if they could get some food. And the horse keeper, the horse breeder said, I don't have food for you, but I have some horse feed if you're really hungry. So the Buddha said, can we have some of that then? They must be really hungry at that point. So he said, oh, okay. Gave them a scoopful each into their bowls, and so they took it, and then they walked away, sat down under the tree and started eating. Of course, Ananda was very unhappy at that point. He was probably very patient, until he couldn't take it anymore. He had a meltdown. So he had a meltdown. And so that necessitated, right, cleanup on aisle 4. So what was the cleanup on aisle 4? So he said to the Buddha, he said, you constantly tell about the Pure Lands of other Buddhas and how wonderful they are, and this and that and this and that. You are a Buddha. Why is it that your land is thinking like this? Look around, it smells. Look at what we're eating. Like, why are we stuck here with you, basically, is what he's saying. So Buddha Shakyamuni said, here, have some of my food. Took, kind of rolled it into a ball, which is how, Indians kind of eat. And he fed it to Ananda. And it was the best food Ananda ever had. So Ananda was shocked, like, what? Did he give you something else, And then he said, but he wasn't willing to just let go, It's like, and look at this place, we don't even have a proper place to sleep tonight. Then it said that the Buddha used one of his big toe, to touch the ground. And from there, this like golden light came out and kind of like peeled off, all of this. And it was like an infinite palace. And then Buddha looked at Ananda and said, "This is where I am. Where are you?" So sometimes, we long for something else somewhere else. Yeah, we threaten to move to New Zealand or Australia or Canada. It's movable to Canada now, but for a time, Canada was also not movable too. There was a crazy prime minister in the good Obama years. Well, good for some people, Obama years, right? In some people's views, Canada had a crazy prime minister.
Now it's flipped.
Now it's flipped, according to some people as well. We'll see. Anyway, we miss, the Pure Land that we are standing on. It's not to say that, just club over people's heads if they complain that this is not a Pure Land. It is actually saying, how do we uncover this for ourselves and for others as the Pure Land? So work has to be done. Yeah, work has to be done. So here it says, in the three realms, everywhere I stay is an infinite palace. And everyone that I encounter is a deity. Then he continues, to outer appearances, these pages of diverse color apply the ink of great primordial wisdom to write the letters of the five sense faculties. Whatever arises, I know as Dharmakaya. Now, content not to have books with their letters in black. So Milarepa didn't have texts with him. And he says, I don't need texts because everything is written in nature already. Not nature, as in, let's run away from New York City and go to, the Appalachian Mountains. As in, whatever it is that in our life experience, that all the experiences of the five sense faculties are teaching us Dharma if we know what lessons to learn. All sentient beings of the three realms have this very heart of the Sugata, but do not realize its goal measure. By connecting with profound oral instructions, I attain the excellent samadhi of the three kayas indivisible. When the final hour of death has come, I will be glad. End of song, actually. All sentient beings of the three realms. So content not to have anything to give, content not to have any spiritual chachka, content not to have any text. Carefree and liberated. Then he says, when the final hour of death comes, I will be glad. I will be fine. So we really need to achieve some measure of confidence before this comes, before death comes. Don't waste time.
It's really very simple, isn't it?
Yes, it's very simple actually. And then if we keep saying, oh, it's easy to say, that I find is one of our biggest kind of way that we undermine ourselves. I understand where that's coming from, where we say, oh, it's easy to say, but hard to do. But I think we use that so much that we really undermine giving ourselves a chance to say, no, try it. Do it, do it, do it. Yeah, don't just quickly, it's almost like each time we say these teachings, and then immediately like you put a label on it. Easy to say. And then you kind of, file it away. But this is the game that Kamsara has figured out to convince us, don't try it. Just say, oh, that's easy to say, hard to do, file it away. So it's in the folder called easy to say, hard to do. Then we keep coming back to listen to these teachings, hoping that there is something that we could put in the file that says, you know, oh, easy to say and easy to do. But why don't we just stop labeling it as easy to say, hard to do? Just do it. Because that's the only way. You know, rather than give excuses. I'm not talking at you. I'm saying it to myself too, you know. That we sometimes think, oh yeah, that's easy to say. But you know, you need to have kind of this confidence, a little bit of this confidence, and say, no, I can do it. Just do it. You know, like he said earlier, right? Be like the great lion, powerful and strong. Fake it first, right? Fake it first. Fake it, do it, you know, have some experience, then you gain some confidence. Then fake it, gain some confidence. Fake it, gain some confidence. Know when you need to push yourself. Know when you have come up against a brick wall, and know when you are coming up against a Japanese paper wall. It's important to know the difference. Don't pretend that there's no difference. Huh? But even if it is a brick wall, it's not that it is not breachable. It just cannot be breached the way that you're going to breach the Japanese paper door, a paper wall. Yeah, but do know what you're coming up against, right? But our samsaric behavior is always having that yellow, you know, strip. Danger, police line, do not cross. You know, each time we come up to something that we need to push a bit, we see that do not cross, or I cannot. Yeah, do not cross this line, danger. But that's how samsara keeps itself in business. Because we would rather believe that warning sign. We would rather file it away as, oh, easy to hear, hard to do. Easy to do, hear, hard to do. It's hard to love, but that's all you can do. You just love. This last line, you know, when the final hour of death has come, I will be glad. You're not glad like, yeah, I get to go to heaven now. But like, it's okay. It's really not easy to say that. But that's what we are working towards.
Without any regret.
Without any regrets. Without any regrets is only possible if you have your priorities right. Otherwise, there's 5 bazillion regrets. I regret I never went to Tuscany, which I'm regretting still right now. Listing my things, right? I regret I have not gone on Santiago, you know. So you have all sorts of regrets. If you don't have your priorities right, then when death comes, oh, they'll all be there. But if you have your priority right, then it's okay that, you know, I didn't go to Tuscany. So the main thing we have to kind of hold and say, with regards to that, no more regrets. It's fine. There's a whole bunch of other things you could regret, you know. But that's just having wrong priorities. So thank you. It's already 5. So let's do dedications and auspicious verses. But before that, to receive the 4 empowerments, even if it is briefly, because that would be the smallest unit of doing a practice session. This text is long, but if you know how to practice it, you can kind of grab different elements. Yeah. And so, in fact, there are 3 mantra recitations in this text. Most practices only one mantra recitation, but it has three. So, of course, if you could do all three, it's good. And many, many praises and many, many verses of praise and many, many offerings. But basically, if you really don't have time, yeah, which is our reality too, if we cannot make time, not that we don't have time, we all have 24 hours a day. Some of us figure out how to make more, and some of us fill it with other things. That's all. So, the basic parts is yourself appearing as divine. Guru appears in front. Make whatever offerings and praises to the Guru. Then recite the mantra, whichever of the mantra. Then at the end, receiving the 4 empowerments, which is on page 40. Receiving the blessings directly now. So I will read, you just listen. So that when I read, consider it as narrating what is happening now. And you try to be in that space for this to happen. Okay? So remember, in front of us is Milarepa, surrounded by all the gurus of the lineage, all the Idam deities, Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Dakas, Dakinis. May our mind be ripened and liberated by the cotton-clad Venerable One and the assembly of deities of the 3 roots. As we thus supplicate, the retinue around Milarepa dissolves into Milarepa. And from Milarepa, white, red, blue, and yellow light rays of light emanate, which then dissolves into our 4 places. From the forehead, white light. From the throat, red light. From the heart, blue light. From the navel, yellow light. Dissolving into our 4 places. And in that way, we receive the 4 empowerments. Receiving these 4 empowerments, our 4 obscurations, obscurations of body, obscurations of speech, obscurations of mind, of heart, mind, and the most subtle types of obscurations are all purified, thus causing us to attain the 4 kayas. Thereafter, Milarepa melts into light and dissolves into you. And in this very state of great indivisible equality, all that appears and exists is simply the state of Mahamudra. And this is Mahamudra. Then together we dedicate the merit on page 41. As the conquerors and their heirs dedicated the virtues accumulated in the 3 times and the innately present virtue, I too follow in their steps and dedicate these virtues as means for attaining the great non-abiding awakening. In the clear sky of Dharma Dhatu, may the bondage of all migratory beings, the snake's knot of ego fixation, unravel itself and attain the non-mentation innate co-emergence, the level of Dharmakaya Vajradhara. May Lord Mila, the embodiment of the compassion of all conquerors, be my guru throughout all of my lifetimes. May I pacify the obstacles on the supreme and ordinary paths, and from within the state of luminosity, may I liberate migratory beings. By the blessings of the root and lineage gurus, gather. May the blessings of the root and lineage gurus gather like a heap of clouds, removing the sorrows of the realms of existence. May the cities of the Iran deities shower like a perpetual rain, increasing the harbors of benefit and joy. May the activities of the Darkinis flash swiftly like lightning, dispelling the darkness of obstacles by the Maras. May the might and power of the Dharma Palace shower like a rain of Vajra fire, annihilating the hostile army of misleaders. May the splendor of blessings of the drops of the elixir of the whispered lineage of Shepa Dorje, the crown jewel of hundreds of siddhas, shine brightly as the glory of the beings in the three realms, completely eliminating the darkness of samsara. So we have completed our program on the Milarepa songs. In the future, we'll do more of Milarepa songs and also, this practice. And as I say, you can, it's a very complete practice, but don't be intimidated by how long it is, because you can extract sections and practice them bit by bit. So if you have interest in, if perchance, I don't know anyone, kind of feel a connection to this, then come talk to me. I will show you how to do this practice yourself. Yeah. So then upcoming programs, the most immediate one is our food drive and ritual meal. It is going to be on Saturday, the